27. Beauty awake. There is more to this puzzle than meets the eye, but let us meet the eye, and then touch the more. Sleeping Beauty has a walk-on part, or, more accurately, a sleep-on part, for her role is merely to be put to sleep and then awoken in the following little game. It is Sunday. Beauty is truthfully informed that she will shortly be popped to sleep. What then happens, and she knows this, depends on a coin's random spin. The coin is fair. If it lands heads, she will be woken, just once, at 6 a.m. for 10 minutes, on only one of the next 5 days, randomly chosen, and then return to sleep until the end of the game. If it lands tails, she will be woken at 6 a.m. for 10 minutes, every day of the game, then popped back to sleep, each time her memory wiped each day of any previous awakenings. The game ends on Saturday, when she is woken, her memory fully restored. Before that Saturday waking, whenever she is woken, she remembers everything about the game's setup, but she is not told how the coin landed. Furthermore, as said, she fails to remember any previous awakenings. So, if the coin has landed heads, then she wakes up once, obviously not remembering any prior waking. If the coin has landed tails, she wakes up 5 times, once each morning, but not remembering any other awakenings during the game. Speaking roughly, tails for total possible awakenings, heads for hardly any. The puzzle is, when she wakes up during the game, what assessment should she make that the coin landed heads or that it landed tails? This is a question of what it is rational for her to believe, given the evidence. What should Beauty believe when she wakes up? A few argue that it is obviously a 50-50 matter. When she wakes up, she has no new information, just the information given at the game's start. At the game's start, she knew that heads and tails were equally likely. She also knew that she was bound to wake up, whether heads or tails. So, now she is awake, how can she possibly conclude that tails must have been more likely? She has nothing new to go on. Others argue that she should believe it more likely that the coin landed tails. If she bets on tails each time she wakes, then, over a series of such games, she is more likely to win overall than not. Suppose the game runs 12 times, 1 game per week, she is likely to lose the tails bet 6 times because there would, on average, be 6 awakenings resulting from heads coming up 6 times out of the 12 weeks. Regarding the other 6 weeks, the weeks of tails, her tails bet would occur 30 times, leading to 30 wins. That is, with the 12 weeks, on average, tails should come up for 6 games, and there are 5 awakenings for each of those 6, hence 30 bets on tails when in fact it is tails. This type of consideration leads some to the conclusion that, whenever she is awake during the game, it is rational to believe it is more likely a tails awakening. Yet, we may doubt whether that is quite right, at least regarding what to believe. Here is a route into the puzzle. I am walking along a long bendy road, with 1,000 turnings, a tree at each, but I can see only 1 tree at a time. Mind you, I am not paying attention to them. I know that I have taken either a road, max route, with 1,000 goats, 1 tethered to each tree, or a similar road, min route, but with only 1 goat tethered to a tree, independently of anything to do with me. The min route is certain to have a goat at a tree, but it is a 1 in 1,000 chance to which tree it would be tethered. In other words, min is guaranteed to have an unlikely feature, just as a lottery may be guaranteed a winner, but it is a 1 in a million chance against any particular player being the winner. My chosen road has been randomly chosen, perhaps by a fair coin spin. I am on the road and just happen to pay attention to a tree. A goat is tethered to it. I think, although it is certain that min has some tree with a goat, it is highly unlikely that the one I just happened by chance to look at should be that tree. With max, it is certain that I see a goat whenever I look at a tree. Hence, I should judge that it is highly likely that I am on max rather than min. Suppose, though, that my goat love is so great that whenever I pass a tree, I am bound to pay attention to it if, but only if, it has a goat tethered. Perhaps the goatish scent attracts me. Then, whichever route I walk, the first experience of tethered goat points equally to min as to max. Of course, if I have a second goat sighting, then that makes max certain. If, however, I am always utterly forgetful whether I have seen a goat tethered, then I have no idea whether a sighting is a later one or a first, so, I am back to being unable rationally to judge one route as more likely. In this traveler's tale, we have mentioned 2 features that may coincide, my paying attention to a tree and its having a goat. When it is just by chance that I attend, then, for all I know, I may see a goat or no goat. It could go either way. That it goes one way rather than the other is relevant evidence for me, when judging which route I probably travel. But when my attention is determined by goatish scent, then, whichever route I am on, there is no surprise in my finding a goat, when I pay attention. And so I cannot use the first goatish sighting as evidence either way regarding which route. With beauty, when she awakes, there is no surprise at two features happening to be conjoined, such as attending to a tree and seeing a goat. It is not as if there is a coincidence between beauty's being awake and noticing that she is awake. Whichever way the coin came down, she is guaranteed to have the experience of waking, and, with the memory loss, all awakenings seem a first awakening. So, on any game's awakening, she has no good reason to change her initial assessment. She should continue to believe that her being in the tails game is no more likely than her being in the heads game. What of arguments that it is rational for beauty, whenever awake in the game, to believe tails is the more likely outcome? Some present note the hesitation, detailed probability considerations, but perhaps the puzzle shows how rational betting can separate from what it is rational to believe. Whenever beauty is awake, she has no more reason to believe that tails came up than that heads came up. Having said that, if she is awake because tails came up, then she has 5 opportunities to bet on tails and be right, but if she is awake because of heads, she has only 1 opportunity to bet on heads and be right. If she bets whenever awake, she should therefore bet tails. This is not because tails is more likely than heads, but because the tails outcome offers more betting opportunities than the heads outcome. We may now reflect that if, whenever awake, she believes it is a tails game, she would have more correct beliefs over a run of games than if she believed heads. But that does not justify the claim that what is believed is more likely to be true. The evidence justifies neither the belief that it is a tails game nor the belief that it is more likely a tails game. If beauty wanted to increase the number of times it is likely that she believes something true, and if she could, per impossibile, switch on beliefs at will, Chapter 45 reflects on that impossibility, then she should believe she is in the tails game, but that does not mean it is rational to believe the game is more likely to be tails than heads. Sleeping Beauty has its source in work by Arnold Zuboff, leading him, all of us, apparently into a marvelous metaphysics, one whereby all experiences are my experiences, where we are all one and the same person. Zuboff presumably would accept the thought experiment of Chapter 56, with its unacceptable conclusion of Issy and Ozzy both being Sir Isaac Newton. Before you turn to another chapter, nodding your head sadly at some philosopher's craziness, reflect on the following. My existence, according to the usual view, required a certain spermatozoon and ovum, and their existence depended upon a sequence of a vast number of highly specific events stretching back over generations and into evolutionary mists and mysteries. A sneeze, a delayed coach, a wrong foot, so to speak, centuries ago and my great-great-great-grandparents, for example, would not have been conceived, hence I should not have been conceived. Is it not an amazing coincidence, on the usual view, that the very specific requirements for my existence should have come about? Of course, though paradoxical sounding, it is often highly likely that unlikely things will happen, witness the lottery example above. But, on the usual view, we have no reason to think it highly likely that the unlikely event of my existing would have happened. That I exist, if I am a person distinct from others, is akin to the unlikeliness, when on the min route, of my randomly looking up and seeing a tree with a tethered goat, but where there are trillions of trees yet still only one goat. A far more reasonable hypothesis, according to Zuboff, is that my existence occurs in a max version of a consciousness creation. Whenever any experiences come about, they are mine. Indeed, the only factor that makes an experience mine is its first-person character, and every experience has that. If this is right, then that is what we all think, being all one individual consciousness, and yet do not think, because, in some way, consciousness is segmented. Philosophical reflections can set minds reeling. Our reeling here requires thought on unlikeliness. The one-person view is struck by the seemingly highly unlikely coincidence of the conditions required for my existence being the conditions that arose. But we may then comment on the highly unlikely coincidence of the conditions required for this book's existence being the ones that arose. Does that show that there really is only one book? The response is, of course not, unless the book were conscious. Were it conscious, then its existence would be a coincidence for the book. So, the one-person view hangs a lot on my existence involving a coincidence for me, but what is so special about the, for me, concerning unlikeliness? Consider a lottery where it is certain that someone would win. It is still highly unlikely that the individual who won would be the winner, even if she, the winner, is unaware of having won. We may also wonder how the one-person view accommodates the fact, seemingly unlikely, that, for example, these experiences, when writing these words, appear to be only within the experience of Cave and not Zuboff. What is this, me, to which I, and you, refer? That baffling question arises in more traditional ways in Part 6. Here, though, we close with the reflection that while our existence on the usual view is vastly, vastly unlikely, it may still be more likely than the truth, or even sense, of the one-person view. Who knows? And here we have as much perplexity with the nature of who, as with that of knows.